Okay, everyone, welcome back. We're going to learn about linear transformations today. So we're going to base it on y equals a parentheses x minus h close parentheses plus k. This is your linear equation right here. And this is linear just to emphasize because your power is 1. If this had been a 2, then it becomes quadratic. But our focus for the discussion today is about linear transformation. So let us begin. Okay, so the first transformation that I would like to discuss is the stretch or compress. Stretch or compress happens whenever you multiply a number. So multiplication signifies stretch or compress. If it is outside the parentheses, then it becomes vertical, stretch or compress. It becomes a stretch if your A is bigger than 1, and it becomes a vertical compression whenever your A is less than 1. The negative sign does not affect the stretching or compressing, it just affects the direction of where your line is going. All right, so as an important note, once again, outside the parentheses affects the vertical axis, better known as the y-axis, and inside the parentheses affects the horizontal axis or the x-axis. I had to change it up a little bit. I had to change my y into f of x just to show that what is inside is the x. That means that whatever is inside affects the x-axis. I just tell the students that so that they can better remember. So whatever is inside is for the horizontal axis. So all these are going to be affecting the horizontal axis. Okay, so with that said, I am going to discuss with you what happens inside the parentheses. So inside the parentheses affects all the horizontal axis or the x-axis or all the x values, and everything inside you must do the opposite. This might be a little bit complicated for you to understand, but I will have more examples with you later. But I want you to remember you do everything inside the parentheses, whatever it's saying. Let's say it is minus, you will have to do the opposite. And I will discuss that further in a bit. All right, I discussed with you a while ago the essence of multiplication. Now I'm going to discuss the adding and the subtracting. Adding and subtracting will affect your function by shifting or what we call translation or slide. If it is outside the parentheses, like I said, it's going to slide or it's going to shift vertically. So it's going to translate along the y axis. If it is inside, since this is a minus, as I said, add or subtract is going to make your function slide. But this is going to slide horizontally. Now let's look at this. If it's a negative value, you will have to translate or slide to the right. And if it's a positive value, you will have to slide or translate to the left. And that's exactly what I said here a while ago when I told you to do the exact opposite of whatever happens inside, you will have to do the opposite. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we note that down. So once again, the subtraction inside this parentheses indicates that you're going to horizontally shift or slide your function. Okay, now I wanted to show you graphically what happens, and we're using a calculator called Desmos. So we are just going to go ahead and type up our, okay, wait up. We're going to go ahead and type up our function, which is, all right. We are going to add sliders, and you're going to see in a bit how sliders work. So I'm going to add sliders for all. This is going to be, I wanted this to be a parent function, but this is going to only be a parent function if my h is at 0. So I'm going to move that to 0. And that my k is also a 0. Once I do that, then I am dealing with the linear parent function of y equals x. Okay, so if that's a 0 and that's a 0, then I just have y equals x. So let's take a look at this. From the parent function of a being 1, I mentioned to you a while ago that you're going to vertically stretch this line if I increase the number greater than 1. So I'm going to make a slider and I want you to, this is how I present this to my kids. I show them a rubber band, like a rubber band, and I stretch that rubber band vertically, like here. And if you stretch that rubber band vertically, what happens to the rubber band? It becomes um, elongated vertically. So I want you to imagine that that line is in that rubber band, like inside it. So once again, this is how it looks like if I vertically stretch. So that is now, the slope now becomes greater than 1, which now the line becomes steeper. All right? Now, if I vertically compress this, meaning I'm shrinking it, okay, I'm now going to show you an A that's less than 1. So now it's less than 1, and you can see that it is becoming less steep. I'm going to go move to the negative just to show you that the negative does not affect the steepness. I can still have a negative line, but then it is very steep. Okay? So let's go back. Let's go back to our parent function. The next transformation that I'm going to show you is the vertical shift. So still vertical because it is the K. It's outside the parentheses so that it affects the y-axis. But this time, you're adding. Either adding or subtracting. And so because of that, you are just sliding up or down. So I want you to look at the slider under the K. If I go over 0, your line is going up. Okay? As I lower down my number, your line goes down. Okay? So that is the vertical shift. The line is going up or down vertically. So this is your attention right here, the y-axis. So now let us discuss the horizontal shift. Okay, so let's discuss the H. Everybody will have to focus on the x-axis this time. Okay, I want you to understand that your formula says minus. So if this was a formula given to you, what you're going to see is a minus right here and then a positive number. So let's take a look at this. It's moving to the right positively. Okay. But in the formula, you're not going to see that as positive. You're going to see that as a negative. Like, for example, this one. You're going to see that as a minus 3.2. And minus 3.2, move to the right. If I go to the left, all these negative numbers, let's say the negative 2, if I plug that on here, that is going to be double negative and it will become positive. And you're moving to the left. It might not be so clear right now, but I'm going to give you an example later on where I'm going to compare my parent function and a horizontal shift. Okay. The linear parent function is expressed in the equation y equals x or f of x equals x. So from this parent function, let's have some examples to where I am going to horizontally shift. All right, so my first example says, compare the linear parent function with f of x equals parentheses x minus 3. So let's go ahead and examine what this will look like on our Desmos. So f of x, you can also type y if you like. F of x equals x. That's your parent function. So this is our parent function. And I want you to compare what happens to the line if you have this kind of horizontal transformation. So x minus 3. Okay. As you notice, it moved 3 units to the right. And that's what I was talking about, that if it's a negative, you move to the right. Let's try to change this up. What if I want it to be a positive 3? Then it moves to the left. So I hope you got that. Let's play with this a little bit. Right now, our A right here, which is in the front, is a 1. We said a while ago that the higher it is, the steeper your line's going to be. I mean to say higher than 1 or bigger than 1. Again, that's the absolute value because it's not affected by the negative sign. So if I, for example, write, let's say 2, your line becomes steeper. So I want you to notice the blue line. It now becomes steeper. Let's erase that. Let's go back to where it's a 1. What if I have, let's say 1/2? 1 divided by 2. It becomes less steep. Okay. So what if I keep it, but then I want to slide it? So notice my blue line. What if I want to slide it below? So I want to minus. Okay. I want to minus, let's say, a 5. Then from the original position, it goes down 5 units. Okay, my next example says compare the linear parent function with f of x equals 2x plus 7. So just to point out, here you had the parentheses, so we were expecting the slide to happen sideways, like horizontally. Here, there is no parentheses anymore, and so everything here is happening vertically. This means whenever you multiply, that is a vertical stretch of factor 2, and this is going to be a vertical translation or slide unit 7 from the origin. So let us begin. Okay, so this is your parent function, and then now this will just be 2x plus 7. So let's examine. From the red line, which is your parent function, notice that your blue line became steeper. Okay, so that is because your factor now is a factor of 2. And then you're from the origin, your line had shifted. It had done the shifting or the translation 7 units from the origin. And that's the meaning of the vertical translation that happened here. So I hope you learned a lot today on linear transformation. Go ahead and explore more about Desmos and how it can help you better see your graphs and your linear transformations.